from last Friday, but we saw a move today and on Friday that I just needed to bring up. I've got to just draw this out because there's just so much to learn from this. So this was Friday, July 22nd, and it's always a good idea to kind of sit on your hands in that first half hour to 45 minutes to try to figure out what's going on, but it's very tough to ignore what's happening here. We got a high wick, pretty much a shooting star right here and a move down, but then it started to find support right here. And so this is 30 minutes into trading, and so I would guess that most of us did not enter in on that move because it was just too early in the day to actually put any leverage down. But then what happened after this is we started to see a pretty decent build back up. And I'm going to see if I can actually zoom in just a little bit here. And we had just like this steady climb coming up. We've got a little bit of a hammer right there with a low wick where we just think, okay, this is going to climb up, but how far is it going to climb? So one of the best ways to do that is just to start drawing a trend line here and to just kind of say, okay, there's our bottom wick right there. Here's a bottom wick right here. Let's just see if we can find some kind of a trend line. And while I'm doing that, you've got plenty of time in between these candles. These are 5-minute candles here. I'm just watching how is it relating to VWAP. I can see that the 8 crossed down over the 20. So these are red EMA clouds here, which symbolizes puts, and it's below VWAP, which also shows puts. And so I'm only going into calls if it tells me that it's calling for it. And so right there, that's a big one right there. It comes back up and it hits VWAP. So if it can bust above VWAP, then maybe we've got a little bit of an ascending triangle and we can play calls. But there was nothing very strong about this move. It just kind of kept coming up and hitting VWAP and rejection. And so right there, that's a little bit of, almost a bearish engulfing candle right there. And then it's under VWAP, and now we've got something that breaks under the trend. And so when you're playing these, if you've got a trend line, the only reason you want to have a trend line is to actually place a stop buy underneath that trend for puts in case they should come into play. And so I'm in on puts right now. These puts were massive on Friday. And so let's just take a look and see how this next candle finishes here. Okay, and I'm going to draw up the fib, the inverted fib extensions here. As we have these fibs, just a good rule to have is just to start scaling out at 20%. Try to pay for your position when you can. And so it's not surprising when something comes under the trend line that it will fight back up a little bit, almost like a little bit of a bear flag. But then you can see right there, there's a strong flush. And so we had a big move here, and I know sometimes when something like this happens, some people will go and they'll check the news, and then they'll try to figure out, I'm going to hold this for the rest of the day. But you need to have a plan, and so that's why these inverted fibs are on here. You can see this is a pretty strong flush down. The 8 EMA, the 20 EMA are flashing down, but you can see it's honoring these fibs pretty well. This 23.6 fib, it's coming down here, the 38.2 fib. My plan is I'm selling 20%, I'm selling at 50%. But I'm holding out for the move all the way down to golden fib. I will go in and I will change the color of my fibs to have that golden fib because that's just a ratio that is very respected by these algos. And so I want to sell right into strength at that point. So I'm going to hover right here where my sell is, just right above that fib because I want to make sure, boom, there it is. This is just fantastic to me. These fibs were drawn about 45 minutes earlier, and it came down all the way and it tapped this fib to the penny. Now from here, we've seen many days where this is almost a hammer candle right here. And so we've seen many days where it'll just bounce back up and it'll go up for the rest of the day. Now Friday ended up being one of those days where it came back up a little bit and it did flush back down even further. And so somebody could have, a stop buy underneath that golden fib just in case it would bleed more. But for me, I was done for the day. So we're talking 2 hours into the trading day. I'm done. I'm good. These puts went well over 200%. I think it was 209%. Right on that fib right there. I think at the end of the day, they did go 350%. So that was Friday. Now I want to bring up Monday as well, because that was a big one too. And so no 2 days are the same, but this was Monday, July 25th. And a couple of things that stick out to me here is there were buyers in the tape today. A lot of them did end up getting into the semiconductors at the end of the day. We have a bullish engulfing candle here. We've got a low wick right here, almost a dragonfly doji right here, just a strong support area. But it would come back up and we would have these spinning tops right here underneath VWAP. When I see spinning tops underneath VWAP, really what that means is this move up has stalled, and so it's likely to have a move down from there. Same thing we saw on Friday, struggling with VWAP here, 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 struggling underneath these 820 clouds. They are red for this entire time. Do we have a trend line here? Gonna fight? Is this going to show support here and then fight back up? What's it going to do when it hits VWAP here? So we're right back in this tight range. It's breaking up again, but it's hitting some resistance that it hit. We've got a little bit of fade going here. So I'm going to draw this trend line out maybe further than I think that I probably could or should, because when I do this, then I can actually get a feeling here. If it's going to fade underneath here, I'm going to buy puts underneath this trend line. And so right here, I'm actually in on puts. And so how far is this going to go? You never know how far it's going to go. But I want to make sure that I'm scaling out at 20%. And getting an idea of our levels that we have. Okay, so this low wick right here, that was a level of support earlier. So let's just see how that's going to be honored. We don't see any major flushes yet. But we do see a fade. You can see the 820 clouds have crossed. It's now red again. It's below VWAP. It's below that trend line. So the best thing you can do is scale out at 20%, scale out at 50%, have a sell here at this fib here because this was shown as support earlier in the day. But let's just see. You get the feeling it's going to tap down here. But we are now sitting here at 130. And this is not the kind of flush that we're hoping for, but now we do start to see that fade right there. Okay, so it does come down and it does hit this previous support on the day. And now we're wondering if it's going to get underneath this fib. Is it going to come down here and tap here as well? We're now with about a half an hour left in our day. We definitely want to have a sell down here, but it looks like it's fighting back up. And so really we had two very, very similar moves. This one did not go as far, but it's the same thing of knowing where your levels are. Once it broke down here, those 298 puts, they were about 20 cents each. And down here, where I was selling, they were at 40 cents. Down here, I think they got all the way down to 44 cents. But that's more than 100% move here. And this was a very, very slow day, but similar moves. 820 crossed under VWAP, underneath that trend line, and then just knowing where that previous support. Stocks ended up getting some support right here, and the semis did end up rallying into the end of the day. But selling right here at this previous support was a very, very good way to get out and lock in your gains. Two very, very similar moves.